Hello everyone, and welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host Lee Martin here to talk some UFC. Joining me today, I have SBR's UFC expert Deiveson Manyun and MMA Mania's lead host Matt Ryan. Now, before we get into all the good stuff, just real quick, go give this video a like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a show. Now, let's get to it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far, and let me tell you, we have a great card this upcoming weekend. We have UFC 256, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, and I'm excited. And not only the main card is great, the prelims are great because we have two women fight that I'm looking forward to, Tecia Torres and Mackenzie Dern. Now, before I get ahead of myself, let's just recap what happened over the weekend. We had Jack Hermansson versus Marvin Vettori, and Marvin Vettori stuck it out throughout the entire fight and actually got the win over Jack Hermansson. So I'm a little upset about that. But Dave, I'm going to start with you. How did your weekend go?
The weekend was good, profit-wise. Yeah. Co-main event and my main event predictions, they did crash and burn, unfortunately. Hill turned up, proved himself against a high-level opponent in OSP, so now we are left no choice but to take note of Jamahal Hill, and you know the same can be said for Marvin Vettori. He proved his worth against a high-level opponent, and now he's look, we can't take Marvin Vettori out of the title talks now. He has been, out of everybody that the champion Israel Adesanya has fought, Marvin Vettori is the one guy who took Adesanya to a split decision. So it's gonna be an interesting it's an interesting year for the middleweight division next year.
Yeah, and how about you, Matt? How did your weekend go?
So much blood. They beat the hell out of one another. It was a nice weekend. Spent most of it watching Wings and trying to get the thoughts of all the cuts and bruises and Jack Hermansson being on the shelf for 6 months out of my brain. Wasn't my strongest week. Wasn't my weakest, but wasn't my strongest either. But you know, we rally on. I'm going to start an OnlyFans to make some of that back. But more on that after the holidays. I don't need to make anybody sick.
All right. Well, we're going to have a better weekend this weekend because we have a great fight card, despite the fact that there have been many cancellations because of COVID. But besides that, still got a great card. And I'm just going to jump into our breakdowns for this weekend. And I'm going to start off with heavyweight Junior Dos Santos versus Ciryl Gagne. Great fight. Via Bet Online, Ciryl Gagne is -425 and Junior Dos Santos is +325. Dave, I'm going to start with you for your breakdown and pick for the first fight.
Yeah, I will highlight, you did say I hope we have a better week. I just want to clarify that I did get the co and the main event wrong, but I gave out 2 winning parlays and 2 other winning bets. So in terms of profit, you know, I'm good.
No, you had a great week. I'm saying me. I hope I have a better week.
Okay, well, if that's the case, we'll roll with that. Anyway, yeah, Ciryl Gagne versus JDS. First of all, the first thing I want to say about this fight is, did Junior Dos Santos sleep with Dana White's girlfriend or his sister? Because who has gave this man his previous 3 fights? It's somebody is trying to murder. There should be an investigation open on attempted murder of JDS right now. I mean, who gives the man Francis Ngannou, Curtis Blades, who was the last one? Rosenstrike, and now he's being handed Ciryl Gagne. Is this a joke? They're trying to kill the man. It's not a good way to treat your legends. But, you know, I've said this and I'll say it again. It takes 2 to tango, and JDS is accepting the fights. He's signing these contracts, which makes him the crazy one, I guess. But yeah, he's just coming off a loss to Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and it was vicious. His dome got rattled, and it did in the fight before and the fight before that. The trend of Junior Dos Santos right now is a sad one. He's on a 3-fight losing skid, and this could be his 4th. Now, I'm not saying that the UFC are going to drop him, because the level of competition that he's fought is obviously high, but it's concerning. It's very concerning. They could, if he gets knocked out in this fight, they could drop him just based on his health, because he's only 36, but the guy's been around. He's a legend of the sport, and you know, legend, that term, it gets thrown around quite a lot. But he's a former champion. He was unstoppable during his early years. I think if you're a long-term UFC fan, Junior Dos Santos has been one of your favorite fighters at some point of you watching this sport. some of the crispest boxing in the heavyweight division has ever seen. But the problem is age and durability is now lacking for the Brazilian, and it's really starting to show. No doubt Junior Dos Santos has the skills, but when we see that speed go, these young studs, they're just gonna prevail in these types of matches, and that leads us on to Ciryl Gagne. Small MMA record of 6-0, but don't mistake that with martial arts experience. He's a former Muay Thai world champion 3 or 4 times, I believe. He's competed at the highest level through all martial arts during his career. And before his MMA crossover, he was 7-0 in Muay Thai, undefeated, captured the gold. He is yet to taste defeat in any form of professional competition, and he is just continuing to prove his dominance in the UFC at the highest level. Now, his most recent opponent in Tanner Boser, I won't say it's high level, but Tanner Boser's been doing well, and Ciryl Gagne took him out. He didn't knock him out. The first person to not get finished by Ciryl Gagne. So, a round of applause for Tanner Boser. But, 95% of the other victims of Gagne have suffered either, a technical knockout or a submission. I don't need to break this down too much. It's going to be Gagne, Peace, and JDS up, and that's what I see. And I feel like he could knock him out standing, finish him with a technical. He could it could be a one-pot walk-off knockout, or he could even drop JDS and then catch him with a submission on the floor, because that's what Gagne has tended to. He's tended to go for the submission over the knockouts. I think it's like 4 submissions to 2 knockouts. So I know he likes it on the ground. But yeah, it's Ciryl Gagne for me. I think he's going to get it done inside the 15. I'm just trying to figure out how he's going to get it done. What a fight it should be, because, 2 6'4" heavyweights going head to head. Who doesn't want to see that? But yeah, my pick has to be Ciryl Gagne for this one.
Great. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave, or do you have a different pick for that fight?
Well, after JDS lost to Rosenstruik and Guildenstern, I'm in a very Shakespearean mood, and it is a long winter ahead for Junior Dos Santos. Very King Lear here. My kingdom for a victory. 3 straight losses, as Dave said earlier, to Ngannou, Curtis Blades, and Rosenstruik. Last time he saw a decision was against Blagoy Ivanov back in 2018, which started a 3-fight winning streak against Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa. So, it's been very up and very down for JDS the past few years. This is his 3rd fight of the year, and at 36, with the miles that JDS has put on, that is a concerning number for me. But that is half the fights that Gagne's had in the UFC. So this may be much ado about nothing, or it could be the last act of Henry VIII for JDS. We take a look at a third of Gagne's fights have gone to the 3rd round. That's only 2 times he's been to the 3rd round, and that's his last 2 fights in the UFC against Tanner Boser and Don'Tale Mayes. The fight against Boser, the only time in his career he went to a decision, and 3 first-round finishes. So half of Gagne's fights have never gotten out of the 1st round. He's finished the rest in the 3rd or gone to a decision. This could be a trap fight for Gagne. He may come into this with just not enough experience, because, as Dave said, his biggest competition to this point in the UFC were Don'Tale Mayes and Tanner Boser. So we're looking at Gagne leveling up into a higher class, the Derek Lewis class, you could say, of the UFC heavyweight division. I'm going with the favorite here, but I'm not going to be singing praises and basically saying this is the Cinderella story if JDS gets the win. I'm not going to be too surprised if the former heavyweight champion gets the dub.
All right. Well, if you guys want to get in on that fight again via BetOnline, Ciryl Gagne is -425 and Junior Dos Santos is +325. Let's move on to the next fight. We have middleweight Renato Souza versus Kevin Holland. Via BetOnline, both of them sit at -110. Matt, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for that fight.
We all want it to be Souza, but Kevin Holland is riding a 4-fight win streak, all but one of those wins being a TKO win, the other one a decision. His last loss came in October of last year against Brendan Allen, where he submitted. And also, this is Kevin Holland's 5th fight of the year. We're not 12 months in, and this man has fought nearly half of the year. That is a stat that can only be applicable in the year of our Lord 2020. He has not had a fight stopped in the 2nd round of this current run. So you want to take the under or you want to take the over in this fight if you're looking for something to happen. For Jacare, for Souza, it's 2 straight losses to Hermansson and John Blachowicz, both by decision. So I'm liking the over in this fight. The last win for Souza was at UFC 230 back in 2018. I was inside Madison Square Garden covering the card, and, well, the air got taken out of it by all those who were trying to make their way to the Long Island Railroad after the show. Souza's 2-4 in his last 6 fights. As much as you love him, you got to go with Kevin Holland here. And I'm seeing it as a finish in either round 1 or round 3, but I'm liking the over here because Souza is Souza.
All right. Well, via Bet Online on the over, there's over 2.5 at -150, and the under 2.5 is +120. So there you go. But Dave, how about you? Do you agree with Matt, or do you have a different pick for that fight?
I mean, do you know what? It's just a tough fight to predict. It really, really is tough because we can sit here and slate Souza. Like, he's 41, 2 back-to-back losses. You know, since 2017, his record is not looking great at 3-4. But then we just have to look at the level of competition he's faced. And look, yes, Kevin Holland has been impressive. But who has Kevin Holland fought on this level? Has Kevin Holland fought a decorated jiu-jitsu athlete on the level of Souza? No, he hasn't. The closest he got to was Brendan Allen, and look what happened in that fight. Now, here's some advice I'd like to give to Kevin Holland. Stop talking, because when you talk, you're using your gas up. That gas that could have helped you in that second round against Brendan Allen instead of getting yourself choked out. Some gas that might have helped you in an impressive debut against Thiago Santos, but when you're on your back and you're getting punched and you're talking and shouting, that's entertaining. And you know what? I welcome it. But continuing to do it throughout the whole fight, it's not smart. And I can't back a fighter who, look, he's a stud, he's confident, he's young, he's taking people out, but I do not trust him, especially against the experience of Jacare. Is an elite grappler, 10-time gold medalist in jiu-jitsu, okay? If Kevin Holland thinks he's going to go on the floor and prance around like he has done against other competition, that is not going to happen in this fight. If this fight goes to the floor, especially in the first round, Souza is going to lock up something. It's going to be over. Kevin Holland's going to be tapping. I'm sorry, that's the realness of it. His age, the age of Souza, okay, that's my concern. That's really my concern. And then watching his recent fights, and in near enough all of them, in all of his recent 4 fights, I've watched him get knocked. Not knocked out, but he has been knocked down. Now, at his age, that could be a sign of, you know, that grey matter's starting to run out, and his chin is not handling the power like it used to. It was Blachowicz knocked him down, Hermansson knocked him down, Weidman knocked him down, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Calvin Gastelum knocked him down too. Now, fighting a guy who's going to have the size and reach advantage on you, that it could get sticky on the feet. Now, with that said, because Souza hasn't been knocked out yet, and he is taking these punches, I'm going to have to side with him winning this fight. It's tough because I'm not going to bet it. The number's gone. Souza opened up at +180. If you haven't got anything between +150 and 180, I wouldn't bother because the value has gone. The value is now on Kevin Holland's side. And I truly believe that if you're betting this, you should probably bet Kevin Holland. But who in my heart think's going to win this, I think Souza's going to shock everyone. It's easy to look at a losing record and say, forget this old timer, but this is Jacare Souza, and his jiu-jitsu game is just too much. And I don't think a guy like Kevin Holland has got the fight IQ to survive 15 minutes with Souza. If Kevin Holland's going to win this, he's going to get it done in the first round. If this goes past 5 minutes, I think Kevin Holland's going to be in some serious trouble and get himself tapped out.
All right. Well, if you guys want to get on that fight again via Bet Online, Kevin Holland is -110 and Ronaldo Souza is -110. Let's move on to the next fight. We have lightweight Renato Moicano versus Rafael Fiziev. Via Bet Online, Fiziev is -147 and Moicano is +127. Dave, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for that fight.
Yeah, I tell you what, these main cards, they're getting harder. Moicano versus Fiziev. I've got a Muay Thai striker versus a Muay Thai striker, and I can't pretend I was sleeping on Fiziev. I told everyone to take Mike Diakese in the last fight. And yeah, I was really sleeping on Fiziev because his Muay Thai offense is something special. It's absolute delight. The speed, unreal. And look, he's got that Muay Thai background too, going all the way back to when he was a child, I think 8 years old. Beautiful leg kicks that come hand in hand with Muay Thai anyway. And although he doesn't have many knockouts, you can hear the power in his shots. You know that power's there. So I'm just waiting for someone to get caught. And, you know, Moicano could be that guy, but he is another Muay Thai specialist and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got losses to Jose Aldo, possibly the greatest striker the featherweight division has ever seen. And then Korean Zombie, who's a top 5 fighter, also with incredible striking accolades. So it is really hard to slate Moicano for his losses. Moicano's clearly faced a higher level of opposition here. There's no comparison to that. It's like he made his debut against Jeremy Stephens, and the UFC just said, "Oh, sorry, mate, that's it. You're just going to fight absolute beasts from here on." He hasn't had an easy fight ever, and he's had more fights in the UFC than Fiziev. And I just think at the underdog price, it's so hard to ignore him. And look, I know I mentioned at the start I was, you know, reluctant on Fiziev in previous times, but I'm going to have to fade him again. Just because of this price. Like, I think this is a straight pick-em. But, you know, Moicano was the underdog. Watching him fight, I just think he can sneak something here. Possibly a submission. But I think if he's going to get the submission, I don't think we're going to see Moicano come, you know, take that. That's not going to happen. Fiziev, I know, has got a strong Sambo background. I think it'd be a case of Fiziev attempting some sort of grappling, not being able to deal with the distance of Moicano and the slightly longer reach and length that he's going to have, and maybe utilising some grappling, getting caught in a guillotine or something along them lines. But I can't trust my money on Fiziev in this one. And in terms of betting, I'm probably going to stay off altogether. But I'm siding with Moicano. I think it's a dog or pass situation for me in this one.
All right. Well, how about you, Matt? What's your breakdown and pick for this fight?
Yeah, this one's a toss-up for me. We're going to bring back my favorite phrase, baby cage. We're back in the baby cage. As Dave said, it's a Muay Thai striker versus a Muay Thai striker. Fiziev's 2-1 since joining the UFC, but we've seen him get dropped in his first fight against Magomed Mustafayev. There we go. NYU education, everybody. He got dropped in his debut, but then had back-to-back wins against Alex Wright and Mark Diakese. As Dave said, he faded Fiziev in that fight. I think I might have faded him too, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong here and going with Moicano. He is 3-3 in his last 6, but as Dave said, it was against Jose Aldo and the Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega. So those 3 losses compound high-level experience, pay-per-view main event, ESPN main event experience on the other side of the octagon, where Fiziev has gone up against, you know, 3 compelling opponents, but not the same skill level. And that experience is going to come into play heavy. The deeper this fight goes, the smaller the cage, the better advantage for the veteran, because they'll be able to expose weak points once they get on the inside. But I'm going to say the first round is a toss-up. But once we get into round 2 and round 3, if he clears round 1, I've got Moicano winning, and I think he's going to win with a finish.
All right, great. Well, if you guys want to get on that fight again, via BetOnline, Rafael Fiziev is -147, and Renato Moicano is +127. Let's move on to the co-main. We have lightweight Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira. Via BetOnline, Ferguson is -165, and Oliveira is +145. Matt, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the co-main.
All right, so this fight's already fakakta before we get out the gate, because Tony Ferguson's trying to get inside of Oliveira's head, saying if he doesn't weigh in on point at the weight they agreed upon, he's walking from the fight. And on a card where there have been as many fights canceled as booked, or at least it feels that way, I'm getting a little bit of the agita, because I want to see Tony Ferguson fight on Saturday night. We have not seen him since his loss to Justin Gaethje, which ended a 12-fight win streak, and he beat in this run Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, Kevin Lee, Rafael Dos Anjos, and Edison Barbosa. He's only seen 3 fights go to decision in that run. The last one coming in 2016. Before the dark times against Rafael Dos Anjos. But we've seen injuries and personal problems permeate for Ferguson, the Khabib Tony Ferguson saga is its own book and its own chapter of UFC history. But let's take a look at Oliveira. He's got 7 straight wins since a submission win over Clay Guida in 2018. All wins on this streak have been a submission or a TKO. This is the biggest fight to date. And when you look at common opponents, you see Kevin Lee, and you see the fact that he beat Kevin Lee, but so did Tony Ferguson. And I think Ferguson faced a more prime Lee. I'm going with Tony Ferguson here. These guys are going to beat the piss out of one another, but I think Ferguson has that mentality where Gaethje got him, but I don't think Oliveira is going to be able to do the same thing on Saturday night that Gaethje did. For me, this is an entire situation where Ferguson has the advantage. He's trying to get inside Oliveira's head. It's just what will bend or break Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, and I know he's trying to get into his head, but Charles Oliveira hasn't missed weight at 155, so I'm pretty sure this fight's going to happen. So we don't have to worry about that.
His opponent missed weight in the last fight, which is why when I saw that comment on MMA Mania, Jesse Holland bringing it up, I'm like, what the hell is Tony talking about?
Yeah,
it was quite confusing.
Right. Well, how about you, Dave? What's your breakdown and pick for the co-main?
I'm so excited. We didn't see Tony for over a year, and now we're getting to see him twice within the space of months. This is incredible. Such a shame that he had to face Justin Gaethje and meet that power, because it was the power of Gaethje that won that fight. He really did damage Tony, and the only thing that concerns me about Tony, because we know how good he is in the cage, it's just that fight with Justin. Was it May? Okay, he's took some time off, but how much did that do to Tony? How much has that affected him? I hope not much, because if he's fine and it's the normal Tony Ferguson that we used to see him, I don't think he's going to lose this fight. Now, these two, they're almost identical when you look at their records, their age, their size, even there's not much that difference in age. So what's the key difference between these two? It's experience. Charles Oliveira is on an absolute tear, but we need to highlight that he's on an absolute tear against, 99% cans, and then Kevin Lee. So if we take anybody off this main card at the same weight class and we put them against the people that Charles Oliveira has been facing, there's a good chance majority of them are going to win these fights too. It's not like Oliveira's on a tear against top 10 or top 15 fighters. He's not. He's on a tear against older, aging, washed up fighters, and that's the reality of it, bar Kevin Lee. But then, like Matt said, Ferguson's, he's done that, and he's done that in a more primed Lee. For me, Ferguson is the more proficient and effective striker in this bout. He's going to mix in his takedowns. It's Tony Ferguson. He offers up, every damn trick in the book. So you can talk about what Ferguson does well, but you never really know what he's going to do in a fight. He's completely unorthodox. I do the precise picks on my Twitter, right, and I'll say, Tony Ferguson's either going to win by decision, submission, or KO. I ain't got a clue. I do not know. It's a complete guess when it comes to Tony Ferguson, because he's so well-rounded and he's so good. He could knock Oliveira, he could sub him, or he could take the decision. I don't know. Gaethje's power was too much for Ferguson. Oliveira is not going to have that to offer. So I think it's all Tony Ferguson for me. I think Oliveira can have a good first round, but we look back on the history, and whenever he gets the big fight, he flops. Every time Charles gets the big fight, he flops. Pettis, Holloway, Lamas, Paul Fowler, flops. When he fights Clay Guida, Jim Miller, Tamor, Nick Lentz, and Jared Gordon, of course he's going to do well. Is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and so is Tony Ferguson. But you know the difference maker? Tony Ferguson has the wrestling chops to go with it. So what's better than a third-degree black belt? A black belt who's got a wrestling background. It's all for Tony Ferguson for me. I never like prices that are too high on fighters coming off a knockout, especially in such a short amount of time. So I'm not running to put all my money on it. This ain't an Anthony Smith situation. This ain't a Jordan Levitt situation like last week, or an Ilia Topuria situation like last week. This is I'm confident in Tony Ferguson. He should get the job done. But, you know, in terms of betting, I'm not going to be chucking money at this because there is that risk, like I mentioned at first. How is he going to come into this after taking such a beating? And look, Oliveira is dangerous, and you know, anyone can be caught. But I just don't see it happening to Ferg. I think Tony Ferguson's going to get this done. Probably some snap jitsu-ish going on, armbar, guillotine, something. But yeah, it's Ferg for me.
All right. Well, if you guys want to get in on the co-main, again, via BetOnline, Tony Ferguson is -165, and Charles Oliveira is +145. Now let's move on to the main event. We have flyweight Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. And let me tell you, Deiveson Figueiredo is still defending his title. He fought 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Okay? So his odds are -300. Figueiredo is -300. Brandon Moreno is +250. Dave, I'm going to start with you for your breakdown and pick for the main event.
Yeah, some perfect story making going on, really. It's great. Both guys were at an event just 3 weeks ago. Brandon Moreno was eating a burger. I think he was eating a burger, and he was halfway through his burger, he says. And he's got the champion calling him out on the same night. I mean, it couldn't get much better. You win by knockout, you're eating a burger, and then you get called out by a former hairdresser. It's just, I think it's great. Brandon Moreno is now getting his title opportunity. And the funny thing is, Figueiredo used to be a chef and make burgers too. So it's all relative here. Born and raised in Tijuana, Mexico. He's been training since a young kid. He doesn't have a singular art form. It's not like he's sick at jiu-jitsu. He's just complete martial artist. That's what you see a lot with these younger fighters. I just think it's a bit too much too soon. And look, it's a fight, anyone can get it done. But this is just a similar situation to Alex Perez for me. I think Figueiredo is just better all round. And although he will give up a little bit of height in this one, it's his frame and his stature for this division. It's just, he's got the power that no one else has. And Brandon Moreno hasn't been finished. And I do think he has a dangerous rear naked choke. But his jiu-jitsu has fared well for him so far. The problem now is he's got the black belt in Figueiredo, and it seems like Figueiredo wants to beef up his submission finishes as well, because his knockout finishes were all there, and these submissions are slowly coming back to reach the equal amount, and he's nearly on 8 knockouts, 8 submissions. He doesn't go to the distance very often because he's a killer. I'm starting to really, really love Figueiredo, and I think he can be one of the best we've ever seen. If he continues at this rate, and I just can't see Moreno being the guy to come in and stop that. I think the most viable option for Moreno to win this is that rear naked choke, and I just don't think that's going to work against Figueiredo. I'm not even sure Figueiredo will even give him the chance to have his back. I can see moments on the floor when they could be scrambling for positions, but I just think the strength of Figueiredo is going to take that over. Now, if I do have to make a case for Moreno, it's probably going to be the later rounds. I think maybe if Figueiredo can be worn out, we've seen him worn out in the past, that could favour Moreno. But besides that, I just think it's all Figueiredo. And to be honest, it's not like Moreno isn't the worthy challenger. I believe he is. And I think he deserves a shot. Figueiredo called him out, for God's sake. You know what I mean? And it's not a cheap call out either. He's calling out a tough dude. I just don't think it's his week, month, or year. I think this is Figueiredo's year, and I think he's going to hold this bout for a while. I don't see many people being able to come in and stop this guy at the moment. He's looking fierce. I still can't get the Benavidez fight out of my head. Too much. I love Figueiredo. I'm taking him inside the distance. I gave him inside the distance on my SBI First Look article. I've put him on my bookmaker review article to win inside the distance. I'm all in on Figueiredo this week. I think he's going to win this. And although I do think he's got a tougher fight than the last one, I still think he's going to get it done inside the distance.
Wonderful. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave, or do you have a different pick for the main event?
I want a burger right now after most of that conversation. But both of these guys fought 2 weeks ago. The time between we've had I can't articulate how insane that is. Yeah. How Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno, Figueiredo in the main event of a pay-per-view, just like finishes off Alex Perez in under 2 minutes, and it's like, let's run it back. That's an Ernie Banks level of loving this sport that is rarely seen. And the paycheck for both of these guys better be worth it. It's the final UFC pay-per-view of 2020. This year has been cursed. Yeah, I don't know what Indian burial ground or what shaman we've got to apologize to, but we got to set it straight. But this fight will be an exciting way to end 2020, a year of weird cards, weird situations, people thinking I know what I'm talking about when it comes to MMA. So just odd all around, but this is his fourth fight, Figueiredo's, and third title fight of 2020. That right there sets the stage for a lot of interesting narratives when it comes to this division, his title reign, and his legacy. Coming off of Henry Cejudo, who earned the belt and then walked away from the sport entirely, Figueiredo has put in a working man's... boxers in the 1950s and 60s put in the kind of schedule that Deiveson Figueiredo has put in just this year. We were talking about fighters who have fought 5 times this year. When you're in your 5th round fight and your 3rd title fight of a calendar year, you are a special kind of fighter. And Dave gave all the props. Brandon Moreno deserves this title shot. He deserves his flowers. Taking this fight on 2 weeks' notice, his 5th UFC fight, and he's already in the main event of a pay-per-view. That is an impressive streak for a fighter. And a guy coming out of Tijuana, a city known for its striking, a city known for its boxing, going up against a guy who is one of the most dangerous competitors in the UFC, will take you to the ground. We saw it against Alex Perez 2 weeks ago. You want the upset if you're a sports fan, if you love the drama, the shock of it all. But I feel like this is going to be like a Tyson fight in '86. We're here to see how long Moreno lasts. And I think that's going to be the main story of this fight once all's said and done on Saturday night.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, if you guys want to get on the main event via Bet Online, Deiveson Figueiredo is -300 and Brandon Moreno is +250. Now, before I wrap everything up, I must ask, and Dave, I'm going to start with you. For this entire card, including the prelims and early prelims, do you have a lock on the weekend?
I don't have a lock. Sorry. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw some names out who I'm quite confident on. I believe Chase Hooper has got a good chance this weekend, even though we saw, what level he was in his previous fight. Recently added yesterday, Tecia Torres is, I think they're replacing Angela Hill was replaced. Yeah, so look, she's juiced already. I can see it. There's a good reason why she's juiced, man. She's fighting a girl in Sam Hughes who's never competed at this level, so there's a quick one. Ciryl Gagne obviously probably picks up on that I'm, quite heavy on Gagne. And then Figueiredo, man. It's Figgy, Gagne, Chase Hooper, and Tecia Torres. I like them 4 this week.
Love it. And you can't forget Mackenzie Dern. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you have your favorite fight, top pick of the weekend? What's your top pick?
My favorite fight's the main event because of all the things that could come out of it one way or another. I love the stories across the board. If you're looking for someone to completely rout a human being, I'm going with Tecia Torres against Sam Hughes. The litmus test, obviously, aside from the fact that Angela Hill got pulled for coronavirus reasons, you look at an opponent, you see Sam Hughes, and if she's on the UFC website or if a fighter's on the UFC website and they don't have a photo of them, it's hard to make the argument for them. That might be a very aesthetic thing, and then maybe if you're looking at me like, that idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. But I think I'm going to be right in that regard. I'm going to go with Lee here in terms of Mackenzie Dern and Tecia Torres, but I'm looking really good at Figueiredo taking the win here, and that I'm almost certain with it. And if I'm wrong, I will try to find some figgy pudding and eat it next week on the show. I don't know where I'll find it in New York, but I feel like there's some boutique in Williamsburg where I can snag it from.
All right. Well, since you guys both brought up Tecia Torres, I'm just going to read off her odds real quick. Sam Hughes is +350, and Tecia Torres is -450. So.
Whoa. I mean, that's quite heavy.
Yeah, -450.
Oh, wow. I knew it was going to be juice, but that's a bit high. I mean, yeah, that's a different show anyway.
I'm going to check, like, all the books real quick. And, yeah, the only book right now to really have odds on her is Bet Online. Yeah, minus 450 for Tisha Torres. But, yeah.
Bet Online. They're always on point. I love Bet Online.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have for UFC 256, our main card breakdown. This Saturday, December 12th. I can't believe we're in December, but it's main event, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. If you are not following the guys on Twitter, you gotta give them a follow. You can follow Dave at @DManyun_ and Matt at Ryan Consulting, and also give SBR a follow at SBR Sports Picks. And like always, if you want to have more breakdowns and picks from all of SBR's UFC experts, then just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC or click the link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and always, like always, dropping some wonderful knowledge. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Best of luck to you all, and I'll see you next week.
Also.